Hey everyone, it's Sara from the SAP team at Precision Sourcing. I'm sitting here with Chay. We are here today to give you a market update. As you know, or as you may not know, we do a quarterly report here at Precision. Obviously, ours is SAP focused, and we've got a lot of questions that we're getting every day. Clients, candidates, the both. So we're here today to run you through some of those topics, some of the key trends and challenges we have been seeing in the market, and then basically just give you a little bit of a summary as to what the next 3 to 6 months looks like from our crystal ball. That's about it.
Yeah, definitely. It's been, I would say, an interesting one last quarter, obviously October to December. We went through that slower period. Obviously, this quarter is we've seen a big increase, haven't we?
Yeah, massively.
Like December was really busy for us. January and February so far is certainly on the up. So it's going to be, I think, a really good year for SAP is what we're seeing.
So I think that it was definitely real. There was 100% a slowdown. Like, we felt it everywhere. It was quiet even for us, and I think that as recruiters, we're kind of like that canary in the tunnel.
Yeah.
If something's off with the market, we're probably the first to feel it. We're first to feel a regression to old times. So I think particularly coming off the back of such a manic period of activity.
COVID time, it's crazy.
COVID time was crazy. I think that we especially felt whiplash in the market to that change. So if you did feel that, you're not alone. It was very real. It's not just you. And I think that a big thing that we saw in December, definitely every person I spoke to, fatigued, really tired, absolute end of the tether. I think that everyone's Christmas break this year was so needed and really well earned, because I don't think I met with one client or one candidate who was just like, I've had a really chill end of the year. It was like a mad dash sprint really to the end. Yeah,
it was good to, I think that 2 weeks, that 2 week break was needed for everyone. Especially gearing up for what we think is going to be a big year.
Yeah, and maybe to share a little bit of that in terms of the context of where we're at in the market right now. Yeah, like Chay said, we're definitely feeling a little bit more movement, which has been exciting.
Yeah.
Even just to share, I'm sure Precision won't mind us sharing, but January of last year we had maybe 20 jobs across the business. This year, I think we've had almost double that in terms of requests that have come in. And that, even for January, is, in general, even in a good market.
Well, January is generally
quiet.
A lot of the Australian market don't come back until after post-Australia Day. And we've seen the 8th of January, it was straight back in. And I think a lot of the advice that we give clients before the Christmas break was, move fast. And you'll secure the best talent, and that's still the case. So it was good to see even a lot of clients moving before Christmas, like the December period, gearing up and looking to...
Knowing that they'd need someone in February, but that means we probably need to have the conversation now.
Definitely,
It was really good to see a little bit of proactiveness start to come into the market, as opposed to, I think, the last 12 months have been very reactive.
Yeah,
very much we needed them yesterday, but I knew for 3 months that I needed them today, and I just couldn't get it approved.
And I think what happened when we were in that slower market is that, a lot of clients, and you would have saw this as well, but processes were, they weren't moving as quick because, it was really difficult to maybe get approvals, or budget wasn't quite there, or there was a lot of challenges and difficulty in moving things along the line. Whereas now we've exited that slower market, and ultimately a lot of clients, what I saw, was still able to secure that talent because the market was a lot quieter. But as we moved in, and I share this on LinkedIn quite often, but as we've exited that slower period now, what we're noticing, obviously, and we'll talk to last quarter, but at the moment candidates are having maybe 1, 2, 3, maybe more opportunities. So that recruitment process needs to be efficient, and being able to move quickly, make sure approvals are in place, you've got interviews locked in, and you can get the offer out once you like someone, because it's just a case of, at the moment, we need to, or businesses need to move fast because otherwise, or the market's seen it already, everyone's sort of fishing out the same pond for talent. I think we'll go into in a bit more depth slightly in the market, but we counted and sat down as an SAP team before the holidays, and I think 34 customers. 34 customers that are actually making the transition and going to be moving into S4 transformations this year, which, it's quite a big number when you think, how are these programs going to be delivered, really? And
like realistically, I think a lot of the conversations that we have with our clients, I think we all know that probably before the new financial year, none of those projects are going to hit.
Yeah.
But come August, September, I think we're going to see a pretty bolshy move in the market. Something that's really key to remember is that smart clients will start planning ahead of that.
Yeah.
If you're kicking off in August or September, know that you probably need to be speaking to your TA team, your recruiter, June, maybe even May. Because if you can get that core team established before everyone else is fishing in the same pond, you will, oddly enough, save money. I think that really comes down to it. I think a lot of the challenges that we have in getting business cases approved, and getting headcount approved right now is definitely erring on the side of caution. And we completely understand this. This is decisions made at a board level, getting budgets across the line, approving a lift and shift brownfield migration.
But I guess in terms of what we're seeing in the market at the moment for, when we meet clients, we always get asked the question, what are people's drivers? And when we are speaking to candidates in the market, we're obviously assessing their suitability for the role, but ultimately, before even discussing the role, is really important for us to understand what is someone motivated by. And obviously you've got a long list of things which it could be, whether that's money, culture, technology. And I think historically, and you probably be able to talk better to this than me, but for a long time, money and technology were at the top, whereas now for the last maybe, from COVID really onwards, it's been flexibility, hasn't it?
Yeah, 100%. I think that it used to be 50 or 60% money, 20% tech, and then the rest were kind of just scattered around.
I actually love it when someone tells me that money's their main driver, because it's just
so
finally.
Much easier, right?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. A quick note to candidates, that is not a bad thing to say. If it's the truth, please tell us, because it actually makes our job so much easier.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not a bad thing to say. I think there's a really big stigma. Oh my God, I could do a whole podcast on that alone.
Yeah.
There's a really big stigma in saying I'm just not getting paid enough. Say that. If you're not getting paid enough, if that's the number one reason why you want to move, please let us know. Because if it is that, we need to know. Anyway, we'll come into that. But yeah, I think that flexibility at the moment, definitely obviously from COVID, but it has definitely shifted a really big way in what people look for in a new role.
Yeah.
And I think now, look, if it's money, then it's number one. But let's say now flexibility is probably number two. How often can I work from home? Do I need to travel to a weird location? Do I need to fly in, fly out? Don't get me wrong. I think that we're definitely going to see a bit of an increase in a bit of a catch-22, but harder flexibility.
Yeah.
Yes, you can work from home, but if my client's in Sydney, they probably want someone in Sydney. Because if a meeting happened on Thursday evening, which requires a workshop on the Friday, they prefer someone who just has to get a train in as opposed to fly in.
Yeah.
But yeah, flexibility's become a pretty hot
topic.
topic.
With that, I've worked with a lot of clients that obviously, as we've transitioned out that COVID era, it's very much about that hybrid working, which is, I think really works well, giving that, flexibility to people who, may want to go pick their kids up or, or drop the kids off in the morning or do whatever that may be. But flexibility comes, it's not just 2 days from home. It comes in many, many different forms.
Yeah.
But, I've said this to a lot of people in the market that if you're one that wants flexibility works two ways. You have to be able to offer some flexibility.
Yeah.
Now, if I want to work 100% remote, then the chances are at the moment, there's not a lot of, you get the odd company that can do that.
But it's so rare now.
And you have to, you almost have to, to gain flexibility, you have to give some.
Yeah.
And it's the same for clients. If you want someone who's, can come on site a few days a week, then you've got to expect that you give them some flexibility in that as well. Because I think, and to be fair, a lot of clients that we work with at the moment, we're back in that hybrid model, and what we generally see is 3 days a week on site, 2 days a week remote, which actually works quite well, doesn't it?
I think so. I don't think there's anyone who can honestly say hand on heart 100% remote is the best. I think that we all know now coming out of COVID, it's obviously possible. We had to do it. Things got done. The world didn't burn down. But I would say that most clients at the moment, and even a lot of the candidates that I'm speaking to after 2 years of 100% remote, they're starved for interaction. They want a bit of that collaboration back in. They want a little bit of that like love and the culture. So just keep in mind, flexibility is always something that, to receive it, you do need to give it. It's
actually quite funny because I remember, like, as we were not peak COVID, but maybe just after, it was, everyone wanted more the remote because it was quite funny. But the amount of people I spoke to recently, and I'm like, why are you looking to leave? Because I'm working fully remote. I have no team culture. I can't collaborate with anyone. And it's like, now it's like flipping. It's like what you wanted, you don't want anymore, and you want something else. So it's like
weird, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's so weird.
It's just like it goes round and round, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I remember speaking with contractors. I had a lot of calls during COVID of people in their cars because they just had to get out of their house. And I was just like, oh, where are you driving to? And he's just like, circles. I'm just driving in circles. I've seen my kids a lot today. I needed a bit of a break. So it's interesting. I think that flexibility is still very much a hot topic. And I think, we say it to candidates, we say it to clients. Flexibility looks different to every person. The clients that do it really well really embrace that. And that flexibility to one person is going to mean something. I think that's what it really comes down to. I think when people say, I want flexibility, really they say sometimes, I just want my boss to know whether I'm working in an office or working at home, I'm doing what I said I'd be doing.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the key things, isn't it, right?
Yeah.
Being trusting in any business is important, and it just comes back down to flexibility,
100%.
which is key. But another point I guess to sort of move on to is what we get asked a lot is, what's in demand? What are you seeing in the market? Either a candidate reaching out and saying, like, I'm going to upskill myself. What do you think, where can we focus on? So it'd be good to touch on a few points. Obviously, we mentioned the S4HANA. It's 33 or 34 customers that we're aware of that are moving, which is obviously a high number. So it's S4HANA is obviously a very, very in-demand area at the moment, as well as BTP, a lot of the newer products that SAP are pushing, BTP S4, public cloud. All of these are really, I guess, at the top of the list, I would say.
I think that cloud technologies, anything to do with that, like it's a foregone conclusion, obviously. S4HANA needs to happen. If we were even to dig deeper into specific modules within your core functional stack, I think SuccessFactors has just outrun every single module. Because like if you include Kronos into that and workforce dimensions upgrades, I think that SuccessFactors has been probably the number one. No one wants to get their payroll wrong either. So it's quite a well remunerated area. And I think it's probably been the least affected. During that slowdown, it was almost guaranteed that one of us still had a SuccessFactors role
for sure
on.
I think
even now we still have a number.
If I were to look back between our team of 8 recruiters in SAP at the moment, big team, I would say SuccessFactors is probably the most in demand.
Number one.
In terms of like skill. ECP, there's a lot of testing work.
There's a lot of testing work.
There's a lot going on in SuccessFactors. So, I think everyone in SuccessFactors would be busy for the next 10 years.
I think if that's your skill, that's good. Supply chain has also been a really hot topic.
Digital supply chain.
Digital supply chain. And I think that's a direct runoff from COVID. I think that, as we know, Australia is not a huge manufacturing country, but the isolation that we felt in COVID because of that was huge. So we've got a lot of FMCG companies that are really looking to sharpen up. So that's been a really busy space. So if you EWM, TM, but even like your core skills of SD, order to cash, But I think that
order to cash has been quite a big one lately.
order to cash has been really busy, and I think that's come off like some relatively quiet years. I think that SD is one of them that just go like this. But something that I've noticed, like they're the technical skills, right? And like if you're a SuccessFactors consultant, great. If you're SD, whatever. If you're app, also fine. But I think that an underlying skill across the board, that is the number one thing our clients look for. Business facing, business engagement, stakeholder management. I think that, and we've known it for years, gone are the days, you're not sitting in the back corner. You're not that tech team that's cloistered away to the basement downstairs. This is an IT crowd. You're now like, you're front and center.
Yeah.
IT now has really big responsibilities in how a company is run. And I think that the people that do well are the ones who can engage a business, who can tell stories, who can really get a point across and not really go in with like an SAP tunnel vision, but bring a holistic view to what they can do for a business. That's really, I kind of think that's what we as recruiters also are low-key really looking for. Because I think that like technical skill, we're not technical specialists. We're not actually there to judge you on that hugely.
I think more recently in the past couple of months, there's been a lot of like more senior roles in the market. You know, obviously with a lot of these programs kicking off, generally a lot of businesses and organizations go to market to hire, you know, someone who's going to lead and manage that implementation. So your PMs, you know, your program managers, even program directors. So I think that's why we've seen so much business facing need. And, you know, I met with a client just last week, and when I asked about the role, I was taking the brief, we didn't even touch on technical stuff. It was just solely, you know, we need X, Y, Z. All of this was more business facing. So I think we're seeing that generally because at the moment we're in a period where a lot of these programs are going to be kicking off. There's a lot more, you know, S4 project manager role, program manager role, program director level role, even architecture kind of roles as well. So that's why I think we're seeing a lot of that. But I just think that's so important now. You know, technical skills, it is very important, but the business is equally as important.
Absolutely. So I think that when people ask us now, what could I upskill in? It's probably the hardest to upskill. But if you've got examples of when you've been able to influence a situation or a conversation where you've had to manage up just as well as managing down, that's just as good as, I've implemented S4HANA 5 times. If anything, sometimes it's better, because I think that what clients are also realizing at the moment is, sure, they may have gotten the budget for their S4HANA journey. Is the business on board with it though? They've got a lot of work to do. Change management's become front and center in terms of what dictates a successful SAP program. Sure, you can migrate and like implement to the cows come home, but at the end of the day, if your users aren't adopting this new system, you've had a failed program, I'm sorry to say.
Well, that's the thing. It's just super important, isn't it, to get, you know, making sure all the dots are aligned really before kicking off into that. Another one was worth saying, and this is in our quarterly report, and if you're watching this and want a copy of that, reach out to Sara and I, and we can share that across. But location, obviously, generally in Australia market, you see Sydney and Melbourne, obviously the main hubs to say. Brisbane seems to be a lot busier. But what we've noticed specifically last quarter was there were a lot of activity in Perth, right?
Western Australia is popping off.
There's a lot going on. A lot of consultancies that are making a move there. There's obviously, you know, historically a large mining operations there, but also, you know, the amount of SAP work is you know, quite substantial really, is what we've noticed. And in the report, I was just actually looking there. So we do a hires by state, and only 11% of the entire market last quarter, 11% actually changed jobs in WA region. So it's, you know, it is very small. It's, you know how challenging it is trying to hire.
I think that's a huge increase. I think last year it was like 3 or 4%. Normally, like in the little pie chart, WA is like barely a sliver. But all of a sudden, Perth is really, and I think that's just the beginning. I think we're already seeing the housing market in Perth now, like rent's really gone up. There aren't enough houses to sustain the people, and that's just across the board.
I love Perth.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. I think that, very good beaches. I think that Perth, we're going to make some really big moves 2024, 2025. I also think that if even one of those mining clients kicks off properly, that market's depleted. So that is going to be a really interesting area to watch out for. Something else that we saw in the market that's probably worth mentioning, a lot of people ask about rates and salaries at the moment. Obviously, it's very topical across the board. Living is expensive. We live in Sydney. My God, it's expensive.
Yeah, it's a bit more expensive than Wales, actually.
Yeah.
Found out the hard way, but
brutal. But we have seen a decrease in rates.
Yeah, 11%. Yeah.
And like, there's no getting around it.
Like 11% compared to the same time last year. Yeah.
And last year, we were in an okay market, but I think we kind of tapered off. Yeah. So this isn't even 11% decrease to the peak, to the boom. Yeah. We'd probably be looking at a much more significant number there. I think that is obviously a correlation to there just being less projects. Again, if you want flexibility, you need flexibility. I think sometimes that comes in a rate. Yeah,
I think as we, when you go into, you're riding the wave of a busy market, a slower market, your contract and permanent is sort of fluctuating. So the market has stabilized from a contractor daily rate side of things. So. And, when you're talking about money and rates and that sort of thing, and I put this on LinkedIn a couple of weeks back around, when you're having this conversation with Sara or myself or any recruiter, just be completely open and transparent with your rate. Obviously we want to help you get the best rate possible. And that's one thing I think is just really key when you're having these conversations, is, to be fully transparent with what you're looking for, because ultimately, if you've got the skills and experience, then generally, you'll warrant to get that more or less. So it's really important.
And like we said, I think that there is a stigma around mentioning that's your first, maybe less so in contractors, maybe, that's the game normally, but permanent, it can be a scary question to be asked, and we completely understand that. I think what's really important to remember is the transparency is key. Yeah. We can't influence to the best of our ability if we've been told a number that isn't actually the limit.
Our aim is to try and help to get that.
Yeah, exactly.
But it has to be a realistic approach, because what we noticed during the COVID times were, I think we can say it now, but it was unrealistic expectations. It was crazy for certain things.
And what was crazy was we were seeing those expectations met. Yeah. But I think this is where that backlash is coming from now. I think that so many companies overextended themselves in that sprint. Yeah. Now they're looking at their team. They're realizing that they've got one SD consultant at 150, another one's at 220. And they're like, oh my God, what did
it's crazy.
What did we do? And that is now where the shift is coming in. I think it's why clients are also being really, really pedantic. And look, they probably should be, as to we should probably get everyone aligned on this.
Yeah, for sure.
We can't have two ends of the spectrum.
I think it's the same, daily rates, contract salaries, where we're seeing it stabilized. Obviously, the challenge that we have at the moment is, like you said, during COVID, if someone was on, let's say, 160, then in COVID they were getting 180, when realistically, now they're going to be looking to get even a bit more, because realistically you're not going to move for any financial benefit. Right? I get that. But that's the challenge that we're seeing. But I think that it's leveling itself out now. And, we're seeing, we have to work we'll help as much as possible, but obviously we need to work with budgets as well for our clients, right? So it's, again, works both ways. I think so.
And if I could get rid of one term in the market, it would be a market rate. Yeah. It doesn't exist. Every role's different, but on the same side of the coin, every personal situation is different. Market rate, I think, is a bit of a toxic term.
It's a bit of a loose lip term.
Yeah, and I think that you know, your market's different to mine. You might know someone who's on $1,600 a day and good for them, but like it just doesn't always what's the word I'm looking for? Compete? No. You know what I mean. Doesn't always correlate. But to wrap it up, I think that if we were to look at the next 12 months, busy.
Very, very busy. I think everyone
busy,
in SAP is going to be, I mean, look, the start of the year pretty much shows what we're in store for. Like we've met a number of our clients who I guess are at the front of you know, the pipeline of work that's happening, senior leaders at SAP. You know, it's going to be a really busy year, I think, for everyone involved. And it's a good place to be, right? You know, it's there's some really exciting programs that are kicking off for a long period of time. So I think 2024 is going to be the year.
I think 2024 to 2025 financial year, we're going to see a pretty hefty boom.
Yeah. So a lot of planning happening at the moment is what we're seeing.
Which is kind of a good thing, though. I think that I think that quiet period was very much a planning period.
Yeah.
I mean, so many of the conversations that we had with our clients were, oh yeah, we're going to do it. We just got to get our ducks in line.
Yeah.
And that hard work is now paying off in the market. And I think we are going to start to see, look, is it ever going to get back to COVID times? I don't know. I think that was, like, personally, I think it was almost unsustainable.
Oh, it was, yeah.
Yeah, I just don't think that the market can keep that level of intensity, momentum. Like, that was a candidate market. I think we'll see it shift a little bit more to a candidate market, but not to the degree that it was then.
No, I don't think so.
No. And I think that one thing we are cautious of is it's not going to hit, I don't think it's going to hit immediately up.
No.
I think we're going to have a little bit of a bobble, but the general consensus that we feel as recruiters when we speak to candidates, when we speak to our clients, partners with SAP, I think we're through the worst of it.
For sure.
Yeah.
No, definitely.
I think that we're seeing now the fruits of labor of prep, planning, and we're now starting to get some of those strategic roles in, small core skeleton teams that are getting ECC environments ready for a lift and shift. Yeah. And then when they really kick off, then we'll see a little bit of a rise. But I think that overall, if we can leave you with a message as to how the market's looking, cautiously optimistic, I would say.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that it's still going to really come down to how good you are, as brutal as that is. But I think that, you know, a lot of candidates ask me, like, oh, what can I upskill in? How can I be the best at, you know, how am I top of the list as opposed to like fifth down? I think if I really had to summarize that, obviously technical skill is one, your implementation experience, but we touched on it before, but it's your business engagement. That is, I think, the number one differentiator. And I'd rather put in someone that's got 7 out of 10 in terms of technical, but 10 out of 10 business than the reverse. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think utilize us like recruiters, you know, like we're across a lot of the market. So the amount of times where we meet people for coffee or meet people on Teams or whatever that is, and have conversations like this where we give feedback, how can you improve or do, you know, whether that's technology wise or, you know, in terms of where you're looking to pitch yourself for your next role and how you do that. Because, you know, I think this year it's going to be a big, I guess like growth in terms of, you know, programs. There's going to be a lot going on.